All right, we are back again. Got the boys together.
It's been a while. Big Hunt Guys podcast. Yeah, when have we all three been together?
It's been a hot minute. You were holding it down while we were gone.
Yeah, that was last time I said I'm going to hold the fort down where you guys are out having fun, huh?
You had Cody Nelson in the office. You guys dove deep into the optics.
Yep, a bunch of optics podcasts. And
I listened to that one yesterday about spotting scopes.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of nuggets in those. You got to give it the full attention and really listen through, because that was a long one, the last one. But there's some little tucked in hidden gems in that.
Mm-hmm.
I learned quite a bit.
That's what I have a hard time thinking of what the podcast description should be, because there is, like you said, so many different things in that. That's why it's just listen to the whole thing, because there's glassing tips, there's tripod setup, there's objectives on spotters, and there's techniques around glassing. It's not just what the title always says the podcast is. There's always something you can learn. Yeah, and they launched the Swarovski scopes, and while I was out hunting, and I remember seeing that while I was out there and being like, "What? Ooh, yeah,
what is this?"
Nice. Brady's automatic. Not enough zoom for me.
Oh, I need one bad. That's right up my.
You think it'd be useful?
Yeah, man, that's right up my alley. Because I've been packing into 65 forever, just the 20 by 60 by 65, and just the size of these new ones and the weight savings. The only thing that's holding me back is the price tag. Yeah. Which is kind of steep for a scope that small, but I mean, it's a Swaro, right?
It literally looks like a toy. Those photos I posted within my hand, it's so small. Yeah.
What does it look like? I mean, we're going to get into a whole other topic, but before we get going, no, Neville says no.
Neville says no.
We got to keep you guys on.
One question. Okay. I just want to
say what product are you guys talking about?
The Swarovski ATC and STC. It's the 17 to 40 power. I think it's a 50
millimeter objective.
Yeah.
Which is a brand new offering from Swaros. If you haven't seen them, check them out. They are tiny.
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 And the thing that's crazy is they are so freaking bright. I was blown away. It totally reminded me of looking through an NL Pure. I haven't hunted with NL Pures, but I've grabbed them out of the shop and looked at the backyard here. But it's crazy what technology we can keep doing.
Yeah, that was my question. It was optically.
Yeah, optically it's phenomenal.
Really?
Oh yeah, I was looking at the leaves, just the leaves flittering around. Even at 7, we talked on the podcast a little bit with Cody about how when you always go to full magnification on a spotter, you always lose a little bit of clarity. You always you don't want to go max. You have to back it off just a little bit. This one felt like I could go 40 power all day and see so many details.
See, the thing about that is there's a lot of times that I can justify leaving my spotting scope in the truck, because I'm elk hunt, for example, New Mexico, we didn't pack one, but there were times when I was man, wished I had my spotter.
Yep.
But that little guy.
You can pack it elk hunt now.
Yeah, I can probably justify throwing that in my backpack.
Would you go angled or straight? That was the last question, Neville. Sorry.
Well, that was the thing is I listened to your guys' podcast, and I've always been an angled guy. I just like an angled spotter just for the comfort, right? It seems like you're always looking uphill or downhill. So I've always liked an angle scope, but Cody might be winning me over with that target acquisition, just the ability to pull your binoculars off, put the spotter on, and you immediately should have the same field of view essentially. Yeah. So I might go straight.
Dang.
Yeah.
Ballsy.
Might go to a straight spotter.
And I think that's the dark side.
I know. And then just packing that thing,
a lot easier.
It would fit in a lot of those pockets, I think, in your backpack. Yeah,
really but again, easy. I want to see the thing. I might have to go check one. Do we have any?
No, we don't have any.
Not yet. Mm-hmm. Okay. I might have to wait. Next time I'm down in the office and we have one, and I might have to pick one up and just play with it.
Well, if anybody wants to hear more about these spotting scopes, you're lucky, because we just had 2 episodes with Cody Nelson and Brady going over everything spotting scopes. Those are already out. You guys can check those out. I'm not for sure which episodes they were. They weren't too long ago, though.
Yep.
You'll see them, Cody Nelson and Brady, breaking things down. So if you guys want to listen to some more in-depth stuff.
Which it kind of leads into topic discussion today, because I did a ton of digiscoping on my Utah elk hunt, and it was pretty fun. I went back through my phone, and just kind of checked. It's fun to look at all the different bulls and stuff. One more question? The objective, the eyepiece itself, same size eyepiece as the regular 65 or the 80?
Yep. So if you have the modular setup, it's the same size. So
gotcha.
The
so
ATC
it's big.
Yeah.
Sweet. So no real issues then with
So I could take it from my ATX and whatever size digiscoping adapter I already have, swap it right over.
Cool.
Yeah, that thing is slick.
So let's get into it, boys.
Today we will be talking about Grip-N-Grins.
Grip-N-Grin harvest photos.
Yeah, and just field photos in general, I think.
We're in the thick of hunting season. People are out having success, taking photos. We're going to give some tips and tricks on how to take better harvest photos. I feel like every hunter That's like the first thing you learn. I'm just trying to think of like, when did you learn to like how to take a good harvest photo? I'm like, oh, that had to been the first thing I learned when I was like 12 years old.
I don't know if it is though.
I think it's something
Well,
that's
once you kill something, but
I think it's something that's rooted though in the hunting tradition. We all love those memories. Like I remember, we hunted a lot in Minnesota and Wisconsin growing up. We'd go in local bars. And then I would have like the big buck club things. Like there'd be pictures all over the walls, all the big bucks shot that year, like printed photos, and they're all harvest photos. And some of them were good, some of them were pretty bad, but just like those memories people are capturing.
Those are my favorite. Like you go to like some, dive gas station, on the edge of some unit that you're hunting that you've never been into. You walk into it, they'll have a big cork board inevitably, and they'll just have a bunch of pictures that are, tacked to it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't see those too much anymore with like, the invention of digital everything, but those boards are so cool. And I mean, since I was a kid, same thing. I mean, you go to the Antimony Merc and everybody, when I was a kid growing up, you'd have all these people, out-of-staters, come in and buy deer tags, and they would all post up their pictures, on that cork board. So
definitely a deep tradition in the hunting community of harvest photos.
Yeah. When did it become Grip-N-Grin?
I don't know. Whoever made that up, but
I don't know either.
How do you feel about it? Grip-N-Grin.
I don't really care about what the name is. I mean, I do grip it, and damn it, I do grin. So I guess it makes sense.
Neville is a smiler.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, he those harvest photos of Neville, he's always smiling.
The most punchable face in the industry. Just loves to smile.
Just smiling. It's every time a harvest photos happens, it's always like reminds me of back in high school when you're at prom and like those kind of shit where you have to sit there and all your parents take pictures and your face gets tired. You're like, oh my God, I'm sick of smiling. Yeah. But it's the opposite on harvest photo. I'm like, I could sit here and smile all day.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I just I killed this bull in Utah, and I remember talking to the camera guy that was with me, Kayam's his name, but I remember kind of saying to him, this is because it was getting dark. I killed him, maybe an hour and a half before sunset. I remember telling him, like, he kept saying, we got to hurry up and we got to get some harvest photos before light goes out, right?
Yep.
Which we can talk about, how to take dark, in the dark. But yeah, I remember him just being we got to get this done. We got to get it done. We got to get it done. And like, I'm like, yeah, I get that, but like you only get one chance. Mm-hmm. Like you harvest an animal, it's an animal you're excited about. You want to get harvest photos of or Grip-N-Grins, quote unquote. Mm-hmm. But like, yeah, you get one chance. That's it. One
chance.
Yeah. So take a lot.
Yeah. I mean, that's how I think of it too. To me, I don't know. I know there's a lot of different opinions on harvest photos. Some people don't like them. I'm in the complete opposite camp. Like I'm all for them, and I take them seriously, and I think they're important. And I think more just for like the memory aspect, right? Yep. Like you're saying, you get one chance. You harvest an animal. You worked hard to get it. And then like having good pictures that you can look back on, 20 to 30 years later, and like, you remember things. You remember what happened that day. You remember what you were doing. You remember the hunt. Mm-hmm. So like I take them very seriously, and like they're important to me. Yeah. And I know some people have different opinions on that, but
yeah, I've hunted with a lot of people where we kill an animal and then they're like, all right, let's get this going. We got to cut this thing up, and like they try to rush through it, but it's like. I try to tell a lot of people that I hunt with, like, this is, like Trail's already said, like, we get one chance to do this. Mm-hmm. All year long, you've been preparing for this one moment. Yeah, you had all that excitement during the hunt, and that was excitement too, but this is really the moment you prepared for, is the kill. And you have to enjoy that. And so, like, with the advent of cell phones and unlimited memories on our phones and giant memory cards and cameras, like, there should be no reason you're only taking 5-10 harvest photos and calling that good. Mm-hmm. Like there's like that's what kind of want to talk about too in this is like the angles you're taking photos, like the setup's really important, like we can dive into all that stuff, but it's just like literally dump the memory card. Yeah. Digital stuff is not taking up any, it's going to take space on a hard drive, but you can always delete those later. Like you can't recreate that photo after you've already packed that animal out, like, oh shoot, I wish we would have done more of this pose, or this was a really good angle and we should have taken at least 3 more of that because the guy was blinking or not looking at the camera. Like taking the time to just take quality photos and take a ton of them.
So before I think we get into like the how-tos, like let's talk a little bit about like how do you feel? You already said, Neville, you're in favor of them, mm-hmm. like you like them. Mm-hmm. Why do you like them? What is it about it? Is it tradition?
I think it's a combination how I was raised. Like it's something that we've always done. I think it's rooted deep in the hunting community tradition. Like you see old harvest photos from way back in the day. I think it's a part of hunting. and I think it shines light on, and it gives you those memories that you can have forever.
Yeah.
Like like I'm saying, you look at that picture and you remember exactly what happened that day, what you're doing, and it like takes you back to that time. And then, I mean, without it, you're just like going off, in your head, and you maybe might not just remember as vividly or as well.
I'll play devil's advocate a little bit. It's hard for me to do because I like Grip-N-Grins myself, for the same reasons that you just expressed. I mean, I like to look back on memories. I mean, I've got photo albums of, when I was a kid, hunting with my dad and my brothers and same kind of thing, But I don't know. Is it like in like the invention of social media, and everything being out there? There's some people that would say, you're glorifying, the kill, right? So you've got Neville back there behind a bull elk that he just shot with his bow, and he's smiling great big, and you've just taken this animal's life.
I mean, to me, I am proud of that shit. You know what I mean? It's like I went there, I did this. Now I have meat for the whole entire year. Now, like. That was my goal leading up to that, was to do this. So yeah, to me, it's something I'm proud of and I want to show.
Yeah.
It's something I worked at, something that was hard. Mm-hmm. And I don't see what's so wrong with, somebody being proud of what they did. Yeah, and having a picture of it.
I think the best person in hunting industry who describes this really, really well, and I won't be able to explain how he does. But if you want to just jump over, look at some of Jim Shockey's posts. Mm-hmm. Literally, when he posts a harvest photo, he just posted one of his moose a couple days ago. It is the most well-written piece I've read in a long time.
Give us a synopsis.
Just like
Cliff Notes.
The way he explains it, yeah, I understand this might be weird to you on social media if you're not a hunter, but you have to realize, like, this moment is not just about smiling over a dead animal that I just killed. It's not like you're proud of just killing an animal. You're smiling because of all the other things that led up to it again. And again, like Neville's saying, this is just the point of the memory of that experience. And so, yes, you're smiling. I don't really know if I even like the harvest photos where guys don't smile. They're trying to look too serious,
like a hard ass, huh?
Yeah. Like a hard ass photo, yeah. Like
they're like, I don't know why I'm doing it. Well, the thing is, like, think about everything you take photos that people are proud of. Getting married, stuff like you're taking photos all the time of like glorifying something or achievement that happened.
You're documenting a moment,
right? You're and it's the same with a harvest photo. It's just that it's a dead animal, and some people.
Yeah. So I think it's just now it's harder with social media because you are going to have people who aren't hunters seeing it, and I just think they just don't understand why someone would smile over a dead animal, because you don't smile when you go to the store and pick up a steak, like you're not like that's a dead thing, but it's like you're not through that. You didn't go through that process to acquire that meat. In this way, it's something just totally different. Where, like I said again, it's rooted in our history. I think to be behind an animal tastefully, and you're smiling because you are proud of that moment. You're proud of what you just did, and it was hard, and you want to enjoy it. So I'm going to smile because that was the hardest thing I've done up to that year, probably. Mm-hmm. And so I think you're doing the animal more of a service because. Right. You are like
you're showing like respect.
It's very respectful with that animal. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. It's just something hard to explain. But I think like I will not be able to talk like Jim Shockey does. I'll never claim I could. But like that guy is a wizard when it comes to explaining things to people. He explains it really well to someone who might not have a hunting background. But like, okay, I do get why you guys are doing what you're doing in that moment. But
what do you think about posting it on social media? I mean, how do you guys feel about that?
Oh, I'm not.
Posting a picture.
Yeah,
I mean,
post away.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, it has to be tasteful though.
Yeah.
Like there's certain things like I talk a lot and my gear list and stuff. Like I will carry extra little things to clean up the animal or rubber bands.
Yeah, we can get into that.
Rubber bands to put around its nose to like make things all tight and so it's not loose and have a tongue hanging out. Like not riding the animal, like giving it respect, like taking that time to clean up the area around it, make the animal. Yeah, you can't make it look completely new because it is a dead animal. But again, just
I think too, if you look at for example, people that don't hunt, so they're when they take pictures or when they post pictures or like we were kind of talking about how they're documenting a moment. Like usually it's something that they did that they're proud of.
Yeah.
Right?
Or they had a good time.
Yeah, you know what I mean. It's something they want to show off. It's something they achieved. It's something they're happy about. It's something they're proud of, and to me, for hunters, that's exactly the same thing.
Yep.
A Grip-N-Grin it's something that we achieved. It's a goal that we've been trying to work towards. We're proud of it. We're happy. Like
And again, it's respect.
If you look at any other reason why people have pictures, it's it's the same exact concept. It just happens to be a dead animal, which people have hard time digesting that and like what that means if they haven't done it right.
Yeah, I think it can get misconstrued a little bit because I think just right now, currently in the day and age that we're in with social media, I think a lot of people can look at a picture of a dead animal and a guy behind it smiling, they post it to social media, and I don't know that they get the entire backstory, and we don't know. I mean, we don't know people. I mean, I know you guys quite well, and I know why you hunt. You know what I mean? I know that's just kind of a culmination of a lot of hard work and a lot of effort and a lot of thought and planning and process. And I mean, for me, like I skull cap all my bulls. I got one here that's skull capped. I don't mount a lot of animals. And I think I told my camera guy that day, I was like, yeah, it kind of ends for me at this point, to be honest, a little bit. And like the experience that I was looking for was everything that built up to and that kill, It's like the adventure of it all, and it is really nice. I like to have all the field photos to go with it because it's fun to go back and look at it and like remember the hunt as a whole. But then, yeah, I mean, it is, I don't know, it's kind of fun to have that harvest photo and look back and kind of give you a remembrance of what was and like why you liked that thing that you did. I think where it can get misconstrued, like I said, is just like I think people question people's intent. Yep. Like, why are you posting that?
Yeah, because everything else on social media is done for likes. Like you have fitness people who post stuff about fitness. They're doing it for likes and engagement. And so they're assuming that same person is doing the same thing with a harvest photo. Oh, you're just posting that for likes. And
they might be. I mean, I'm not going to say people don't or do or don't. I mean, maybe they are, right? Maybe I am sometimes, Maybe there's like that little hit of like that endorphin that like, yeah, post this, people like it, maybe they look up to me, they think that's cool. I mean, I personally, I guess I don't know if it's just like, my inability to kind of look at it that way, or maybe it's denial, right? But like I like to share, like my mom, I don't print photos anymore. I don't send them photos. Like I'll share a picture on social media. My dad and my mom will see it, or, friends, people that I don't even know, right? They'll see it. I hope that when they see that, like, I hope that they know that, at least I would like to think, that my intent was that, everything that led up to that, Right. Like I did this thing that was really, really hard.
Yeah.
Like for me personally, that was a lot of effort. It was a lot of work. And I don't know that ever comes through in just a harvest photo that somebody posts on social media, but man, so much work.
Right. Do you ever feel like you should, after you post a harvest photo, before you post a harvest photo, justify it by like showing maybe meat or meat in a backpack and like give a story about that or showcase some cooking things? Or?
I was telling Neville the other day, I think I'm just like, I don't post that much on social media. Yeah. I thought maybe just like from the future on, they'd just all be Grip-N-Grins. just straight Grip-N-Grins. But I don't know if that's right either. Yeah, probably not.
I think that's also when somebody buys a brand new car and they take a picture of it and they're proud of it, like, do I need to see a picture of them and like all the cash that they paid for it? What's the difference? Yeah. Like when someone has a picture of their house, do I need to see all the money that they used to pay for it?
I don't know that I feel the need to, but I like when people do. Yeah. I like to see like those backstory photos, I like to see the process of somebody packing out a bull, I think I've got a photo that the camera guy took that, I've got the rack on my back. I've got probably, 80 pounds of, meat kind of on my meat shelf. And, I've got the side vents on my pants zipped down. And like, I don't know, when somebody looks at that, maybe they just think like, oh, that's kind of a cool photo. And this guy's, look how cool he is or whatever, he's packing out this, rack. But like in my mind, like I instantly go back to that moment where I'm just like, holy shit, that was so much work.
Mm-hmm. And I think for the other hunters, like I know if I see a harvest photo of Brady, like I know he's taking the meat, I know he's eating the meat, but I do understand, the point made where, someone who doesn't understand hunting, like it does look like we just killed an animal and then took a picture with it, and they don't understand that. Yeah, so that's literally what I eat throughout the whole entire year.
So is our responsibility then?
That's what I was just going to ask.
Right?
Yeah, to go further on the story and explain it to people, because that is the issue with social media. Like it's open for everyone unless you're totally locked down, but like people don't see
I don't know
exactly what's going
I guess
on.
don't follow me then. I don't know. You know, that's a tough one.
Because like I don't really get a lot of enjoyment. Like I eat every single day. Like what's the point of me showing that I eat every single day? Because literally I do eat wild game meat every single day, and most people that know me, like you guys know, I do that all the time. But every now and then I do like to, take a photo or post a photo of either the meat being packed up or some meat being cut up. Like, because also it's again why I take photos of that. It's just the memories too. Like I want to see that process of how I did it back in the day and just remember it. And I don't know if I feel like I have to post those, but
it's an interesting idea to think that. I don't know. I mean, it is weird because like I'm not hyper aware really of like the impact that I might have across a wider audience. Really, like I kind of keep to myself. I'm pretty much I'm a self called loner, right? I spend a lot of time alone. I don't know. I personally don't feel like I have this responsibility, but when you think about it, I guess on the grand scheme, you always want to shed hunting in the best light possible. But I want to put it in the light and show the respect for it that I have. But as far as like having a responsibility, I don't know. Hasn't really settled in on me yet.
It's a tricky one.
it is very tricky because you don't know who's looking. But it's like you don't post a lot of photos.
No.
And it's like because you're out doing other things. Like why would you want to sit on social media all day and just post? Like
I don't. And that part of that's because I'm a little bit older too. It doesn't quite resonate with me like it would.
You can't be everything to everyone, I guess.
Yeah,
I am who I am.
You are, Neville. Come on.
It's like I am who I am. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't.
Yeah. So let's talk about harvest photos. So like what are some of the things that you guys think? I mean, I think we all agree that if you are going to post something, it should be, quote unquote tasteful.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
So what are those things?
I think to me it's just positioning the animal either. I like to always put them like legs tucked underneath their body. Like literally take their front legs, tuck them back, tuck the back legs underneath their stomach. Like make them kind of look like in an embedded position. Like, yeah, it's not naturally how he fell over, but I think it adds taste. And I don't think you can do that with all species. Like you get a big elk down or you shoot a moose, like wherever they lay is where they lay. You're not going to be able to move them. And so also try to like move some of my animals if I can to a spot where it's a little easier maybe to see the body, see the scene, and the rack is then not like blurred with the background. So you actually get a distinct look of the face in the rack. So it's like a separation from the animal to your background a little bit. I think it adds more taste to it. But again, you can't do that with every animal.
I think to your really the way you're trying to make the animal look the best as possible, which I think is.
And it gets construed now.
If you look at death, whether it's a human being, like, and a funeral, right? If you have an open casket, like they're trying to make that dead person look as best as possible. It's the same thing in the field. We're trying to make this animal look best as possible. We're cleaning the blood. We're taking blood off its antlers. Like we're positioning it in like, its legs aren't up in the air and its balls are hanging out. Like you're positioning it in a spot that like it looks good. It looks respectful.
Yep.
Like you're making the animal look as best as possible. Which, I mean, if you look at death around, like everyone does that. From humans, like paying the respects to whatever it is that's dead, like they're trying to make it look as best as possible. Which I don't think that's that weird, but like some people, if you don't draw that connection, they're like, "Why are you trying to make it look best as possible?" Like, it's like it's the same. It's what everyone. Concept. It's the same concept. Everyone does it.
So cleaning up blood.
Blood, even if you have snow on the ground, like you have to make a lot of conscious decisions to. It's not probably the right phrase, but like get all that snow that might have blood on it, like out of your photo too. Like again, just adds that tasteful thing. And you might be stepping in all the snow and whatnot, or maybe just drag it forward a little bit where there's no blood on the ground and set your animal down if you can. And just, I think first it starts with cleaning it up.
Cleaning up, making sure it's like eyes are.
Brady, do you carry wet wipes?
No, but I will use like my wet wipes. I hate wet wipes.
I know that you do.
Gosh,
I listened to your podcast. I heard that you have a vendetta, personal vendetta against wet wipes.
To the podcast. It's Trail.
Yeah, Neville and I had an interesting conversation in New Mexico. He said no wet wipes because he feels like you're just spreading it around. If you know what I mean. Why, I'm a wet wipe guy, but
why pamper the bum, man?
But spreading around.
Yeah,
but that's what if you have wet wipes, that's gonna be a great thing for harvest stuff. Or I just take a bunch of my toilet paper.
I've used that.
Right. Yeah. So like your first step, like cleaning up the animal, making it look as best as possible, having it in a position, like Brady was saying. I think we all do this, like the legs tucked under, like it's bedded.
Yep.
Like it's bedded on the ground.
Yeah.
And then I think a lot of that, like, it's paying respect to the animal, right? Like we're making it look best as possible. I mean, and then there's also like, of course you want it so it looks bigger.
Yeah. But then like also
I like how Brady always gets bashed on. You always just try.
We're gonna talk about that.
That's what I was going to get into a little bit about that
We'll
earlier. And said make it look big.
Let me go back. So I would say there's three or four things that typically like I see in a harvest photo that like right off the bat I'm just kind of like and no shade to anybody because shit happens, people whatever. But like blood on the animal typically coming from two spots, one from the mouth maybe.
Yep.
Or from the entrance and exit of the hole. So clean those up. Two, the tongue. So the first thing that's going to happen on that animal, it's going to go slack jawed. Tongue's going to hang out the side. And I've seen a lot of harvest photos where you've got a tongue hanging out, right? So
I just had a Photoshop one we posted the other day.
Okay.
They get rid of the tongue.
So what do? You typically say you pack a rubber band?
Yeah, I pack some rubber bands. I'll put it on the mouth. Right when I get there and I'm doing some of the cleanup work, I'll take the rubber band and just put it on its nose. Mm-hmm. And so then while I'm doing a bunch of stuff, the animal's getting
rigor mortis,
so it's getting stiffer. And so it just helps make that jaw in a nice position that looks more natural, like the animal is just sitting there bedded, not feeding or doesn't have his mouth down because animals don't do that naturally. And so then right when I take the harvest photo, then I'll pull that off and everything's all tucked up in there. But if you have an animal that doesn't do that well, you want to get your harvest photos quickly because it's going to get dark, you have a nasty pack, it's going to start raining, you can take your knife out and remove said tongue.
Cut the tongue out.
Yeah. That just helps make it easier so it's not going to do that.
That's got to be the number one. Tongue out.
The tongue hanging.
Oh my God.
And then
that's got to be number one.
The slack jawed animal, its bottom jaw's hanging,
Right.
Gums are hanging.
And then one more tip I want to jump in before we go further is like when you're setting up the animal, sometimes we're on super steep hills and the animal doesn't want to sit up straight. Mm-hmm. A lot of times just find some boulders, find some logs, tuck them on the backside of the animal so it kind of is resting against it so it is still natural, but it's not just going to fall over all the time.
Yeah.
Like using what you have around you because it's not going to be in the photo. And you're not like doing anything different. You're just shoving it behind the animal to help position it where you need to.
I think too, being cognizant of the shot and
position on the other side. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, not every shot's perfect.
Yeah.
That's part of hunting, but being cognizant of what you're showing. Like, I'm not gonna if it's a shot and it's like one side's like completely blown out. Like I'd probably turn the animal the other way. It's gonna look better. Or if you're stuck with that, like try cleaning it as best as possible so that you can't see like this humongous wound, just gash through this animal, kind of thing. And then if you had like a gut shot or further back shot, maybe just kind of cropping that picture in a little bit so you don't like see a bunch of guts just hanging out of the animal. Or like do your best to like clean up the shot, I guess.
Because I think even a hunter would realize like if they took a harvest photo and there was some stuff hanging out of its inside, like that doesn't look good for you anyway. Like you don't want to look back on that and see a gut just hanging out of your photo. I mean, I don't think people do.
Yeah.
And then it's thinking if you're going to share that image on the internet, like you got to think of where we're sharing things now too. So it's like Neville said, clean it up or crop a photo over a little bit or just it's tasteful. You're not like things happen when you're hunting. So it's not like you're trying to hide something, but you're trying to make something, seem better for your memories later on. Like, you don't want to remember that.
Yeah, just try to pay it respect, right? Mm-hmm. The last thing I was going to say was like vegetation, like in and around the animal, right? So I carried just a small pack saw. I use it to skull cap the animal or cut any bone that I need to. But then I also use that same thing to clear any vegetation in and around the animal. If you're gonna take the time to take harvest photos, you might as well take the best photos you can and clear out as much vegetation as you can so that you can actually see the animal, see the antlers, see its face, features, those kind of things. So those are kind of my three for me. Is there any others for you that jump out that you guys can think of? It's typically blood, tongue, vegetation.
Yeah, it's one of those things too. I think every time when you set your animal down and you pick it up again, you're going to have some dirt or some debris on the nose. So that's why me as a camera guy, or if you have a friend near you too, if there's three of you, like one person should always be cognitive of grabbing something, your hand, a glove, and wiping that blood from the nose while that person's holding the head right before you're taking the picture. Just clean that up a little bit. Because every time you set down, because as we all know, it gets heavy holding up a head of an animal. So just realizing that you have to clean that blood off the nose every time you set it down, or dirt or whatever it might be.
So those are kind of the big three for me.
Maybe setting it up and then.
What do you guys feel about weapon in harvest photos and weapon out of harvest photos?
I like it.
I like weapon.
Yeah.
I do. Yeah. I mean, it kind of shows you, what you used, and it's kind of
I think there's still a tasteful way to do it, though.
It's like telling the story a little bit. So, like, I can look at it. Oh, they're in this terrain. They shot this, and it was an archery hunt.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that for me, like, I like some of the old harvest photos I have. I like to look back at the weapon that I use. So, like, I remember using that Matthews Q2 bow, the single cam, with the old camo, and I like to look at the sight and be like, oh yeah, I remember that Trophy Ridge, and no drop away rest and those kinds of things. So I don't know. For me, I like it.
Yeah, I like the weapon in there as well.
I kind of like the weapon though. It's sometimes hard with a rifle, I think, because sometimes I've done it before. So I'm going to talk about what I don't like, but guys who take your rifle with the bipod and like set it front and center in front of it, and it's like super close, so it like looks more like the rifle is more important than the scene.
It looks a little tactical.
Yeah, it looks a little tactical. So I don't know. It's like there's probably different ways to do it. Sure, you can do one like that too, because it is your setup. Yeah. Maybe that's what you're into, is that style of thing, or just do one laying against the animal or behind the animal, pointing out towards you. Yeah. But also just watching too where the barrel's pointed, because
I was going to bring that up.
You will, even though you're going to be totally safe, maybe you checked it. People on the internet will not know you checked it and be like, "Why is that barrel pointing at someone?" That's the first thing of gun safety. Don't.
Yeah, well, it shouldn't be.
So just be watch out for that too.
Yeah. Like the weapon is not the important thing of this picture.
Maybe if I shot someone with a stick bow, I might really want to shove that thing in the front, like, ooh, I stalked him with a stick bow.
Yeah, I like it.
All right, now should we go into how to take a good picture?
Yeah.
I would say, like, the stuff that comes to my head, like what people mess up the most probably is focus. Whether to focus on the animal or whether to focus on the person, and then just like being cognizant of the cropping of the picture. Because like a lot of times you're just taking pictures, you got the antlers, and you look at your picture again, it'll be out of focus, and like half of its left antler will be chopped off. Like the positioning of the antlers and like focus. And Brady and I were just talking about this. Like usually if you're taking a picture, like a harvest photo, you want a higher f-stop, which is going to allow there to be more clarity no matter what like depth the animal and the person is. So you'll have everything in focus.
Yeah, so we're talking about like what I have right in front of me, like a DSLR type, Sony type camera where you can adjust your f-stop. And so I think mainly
What's an f-stop? For those of the people that don't know what an f-stop is, what are you talking about?
It basically is just going to allow, like if you have a lower f-stop and you're focused on one thing, the stuff behind it's going to be really, really blurry.
Okay.
So it's going to add that like bokeh. And so like makes the stuff really up close, crisp, and that's why like it might really look good for like if you're just trying to do a detailed shot of an antler and you want that stuff blurred behind there. Lower your f-stop. But if you want a harvest photo, you want maybe the animal in focus and you, because you might be a foot behind the animal, like right next to it, and you could literally be blurred if we use a really low f-stop on somebody's really fancy camera. So like maybe like an f-stop of like 4.5, 5.2, 6, 8 even, because then it's also going to make some of that background in focus too. So you have a really gorgeous mountain scene. You want to get everything captured. Crank up that f-stop if you have a camera lens, like you can do that with, and that way you'll be able to see the animal in focus, you in focus, and some of your scenery behind. That way it's a memory for you later on.
It's almost kind of like a safety net. It's going to allow you to have more things in focus.
Mm-hmm. Do you guys play with that?
I will do both.
Do you start out with like a high f-stop?
I try to, because that's like...
And take like just general photos?
You know, because the person's going to get tired later on, and then I might say, hey, okay, now let's try to do some detailed shots. We got the good ones right away. Now I want to do some more creative shots
and work your way down.
Work my way down from there, yeah.
Yeah. And then I think the go-to classic pose, right? You have the person behind it, and you have like the antlers tilt like towards the camera, but not like directly towards it, where it's like you get like a side profile, but you're able to see the opposite antler at the same time. So it's not like where it's just facing dead straight, where you just see one antler and then you don't see the other antler because that antler's covering up. It's like just turning its head like towards the camera, but not exactly at it, and you can see both antlers. That's
because you get that a lot on elk.
Picture. Yeah.
Because if you have elk too broadside and the rack's broadside, you're literally only going to see that side closer to the camera, and then it's going to look like maybe your other side's broke off. Because some of those elk are very symmetrical all the way to the top. You're not going to be able to see the antlers. Although if you slightly turn it, like, yeah, that one side view might be good, but this comes into the same thing, like poses. Like, if the animal's completely broadside, just working that rack more towards the camera. That way you get different angles, because one angle might just look really great.
The other thing I see, too, with elk a lot is, if somebody will take a picture from the front, and where you've got, like, your fifth tine in your main beam, basically that fifth tine will fall right in line with your main beam if you're taking that from front on, and it like almost disappears pretty much. So just like a little bit of angle kind of gives you the full scope of what, you know, those antlers look like.
Yeah, it's I guess photography kind of like 101, right? Different angles. Yep. You want to take as many different angles, and then it's like your zoom levels. So you got like close in shots, medium shots, far shots.
Yeah, we want to do it all.
You can hit all three of those and then a bunch of different angles and take as many pictures as possible. Like, you'll usually be covered. I think too, like figuring out. So like every animal you shoot, there's like something you like about it, right? There's something unique about it. Like understanding what is unique about its antlers that you think's like cool, and then portraying that the best as possible. Like, let's say you shoot a super wide buck. Like, the only way you're gonna be able to portray that is like you're gonna have to be like more like face on with it or in front of it to see like its width.
Yep.
So like taking as many different angles, dude. I literally just like walk in circles around people. Walk in circles, do 1,000 different angles, and then as I'm doing that, I'm also taking some closer, taking some further, taking some way far out. So then you have all your bases covered.
Do you think at this point too, like, person who's running a fancier camera might want to switch over to like an autofocus, so you can just keep trying to crank as many photos and not worry about, I have to manually focus here and there, like, just because we have to remember too, like, when we're taking these harvest photos, we do owe a right to the animal to start cutting it up. Like, so it might depend on the seasonality. Like, if it's an August hunt and it's super hot out, you're probably going to be taking very fewer photos rather than if you're on a late season hunt and it's cooler out and you know that meat can handle what you're doing. So you have to remember that. That's an important step as well. Or did this animal lay there in the heat for a while and took you 6 hours to get over there? So definitely there's some things you have to be cognizant of, again, to watch out for when taking some photos. But
yeah, I think before I want to ask you guys some more technical questions about camera equipment and gear and f-stops and those kind of, those kind of things. But before we dive into that, like, there's some things for me, like, I guess, and this is where I'll say my piece, and then, like I said, I'll turn it over to you. But
just so everyone knows, Trell is pretty good at. He's good at taking harvest photos.
I'm not good at taking harvest photos, but like, I've looked at enough of them.
You know all the positions, all the angles.
Yeah, and I've looked at enough of them that, like, I know the things that kind of bug me. So things that kind of bug me, like when the animal's head is like tilted one way or the other. And there's a lot of times when you get two guys, one guy's taking a picture and the hunter, he's behind the animal. That guy, he can't tell.
Nope.
I mean, he can't tell what the angle of the deer's head is like. So, if you're taking pictures for somebody, don't hesitate to ask your hunter, hey, tilt that deer's head back to the left, rotate a little bit to the right, because, you have the perspective of what the photo is and what it looks like. So, same thing with the hunter. There's a lot of times that you're sitting on uneven ground, the guy's head will be kind of cocked off to the side. Yep. I'm guilty of that, but yeah, be cognizant of angle the deer's head, angle the hunter's head, the position that they're sitting. And that was like one question I wanted to ask you is, like, what do you guys like for as far as like where to position your hunter?
I don't like to position the hunter directly behind antlers. I mean, that's a good pose if the deer kind of, again, it goes back to, like Neville said, what you're trying to show off on the deer. Sometimes it works really well. But to me, I either like to be left of it. So if the deer is, right here in front of me, for people watching, I'll either have the hunter to the left, and so it's not right behind the rack. Or sometimes it's really nice, too, to do a different style and have the person on the opposite side of the body so he's not behind the body. And again, we're not trying to get 10 feet away from this body here, again, and make these deer look stupid big and do the old long arm things. It's like you have to do what you're like if you're grabbing the rack and you're right near it, try to get as close as you can to the animal. You're not trying to long arm these things. Like, but again, maybe an angle, though, once where you are pulling it, pushing it away might just look cool, and it's just like the angle you're looking for because it's just a creative shot you're trying to do. You're not trying to make the animal look bigger here. You're just trying to do a creative. Or then I even like, too, where the hunter's totally wrapped around and you're just getting a side view and maybe just holding the nose. Holding the nose is looking at the animal. Again, I think that's more of like one of those respect type photos where then I might not smile. I might be just like, I'm just looking at him because I am really right now, even though you are taking photos and it is kind of staged, I am still admiring things because I might have shot that buck an hour ago and the first time I'm really looking at his face. So I am holding its face. And
I think with that, it's just you're giving the animal antlers like clarity, so it's not like super busy behind them.
Yeah.
So you're able to have like a good vision of the antlers Because, like, even in the woods, like, it's kind of hard. We have, like, backgrounds of, like, trees and stuff, like, get a clear view of the antlers, and then you had someone's head right behind it, too. Like, it's hard to get a good representation of the antlers.
Yeah.
Whereas if Brady was saying if you have them off to the side, technical difficulties, but we're back. Anyway, going off Brady's point, it's just giving the antlers, like, clarity and not having things too busy behind it. Having, like, the hunter off to the side so you're able to see, like, a clear vision of the antlers.
One thing I see quite a bit is guys' faces, you know, like behind an antler.
And you get shadows or something?
You get shadows, or, you know, you can't really tell what the antler is, you know, and it can be kind of hard. It can require some, like, awkward positioning for the hunter. But, yeah, I think point being, you know, if you're the camera guy or if you're taking self pics and you're doing on a timer on a tripod, just try to position yourself. For me anyway, like I like those ones where, you know, you get a clear look at the animal.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, when you brought up before, like, you remember when we were taking your antelope photos, all the direction, like, we were giving you, like, it helps. Like, it might be awkward for you, but, like, we're trying to level it up. We're trying to move in position.
Yeah.
Taking as much as you can to dump that shutter, and then also give your hunter time to rest, because it's going to get awkward after a while.
Yeah, it helps a ton to have somebody there to take field photos for you.
I think, like, what Trey was saying, too, like, directing the person on, like, what to do. Because there's nothing worse as a hunter. You just shot this animal and your buddy's taking your pictures and you get there and you're like, dude, I look like a dumb shit behind here. Like, my head is completely here. My hat's, like, up here. My hair's all over.
Yeah.
Like, tell him, like, hey, dude, put your hat on. Make sure, like,
do this.
Yeah.
Do that. Tilt the head. Tilt your head. Look straight. Yeah. Give him direction.
Maybe zip your clothes up a little bit so you don't have all that hair poking out.
Yeah,
just make
that's
it
you,
tasteful.
Neville. Yeah. Chest hair.
Usually it's my hair. Because, like, my hair's all over the fucking place. And then it's like, dude, how come you didn't tell me my hair was, like, you know?
Yeah. I think it's
flapped
really,
out.
You're having a bad hair day.
Bad hair day.
I think it's really good, too, when you're taking harvest photos, if you can, to, like, give the camera to the hunter or the phone and let them go through it really quickly, because it is their moment, and they might say, yeah, these are really great, or, you know, take 5 more of this angle.
Right.
This angle looked really good for me because I want to showcase that hook cheater because that was the first thing I saw, or whatever it might be. But
yeah, again, I would just like to stress, like, me included, my first tendency is, like, to get working on this animal. Like,
Yeah.
I want to start the process, especially if I kill an animal an hour before dark and it gets dark on me. Like, my reaction is to, like, especially on an elk, because it's so big. I know this thing is going to take me forever, 2.5, 3 hours to completely break down, right? Like, my reaction is like, okay, I got to get to work, you know, but, like, you only get one chance.
we're the complete opposite. If I kill an animal that's towards dark and I get some daylight photos and it goes dark, then I'm like, all right, now we have all the time in the world. Now I have no rush because it's going to be dark no matter what.
Yeah, and
So-
I mean, I hunt a lot of early season stuff too, you know, so it's hot, so I feel like, I need to get meat off. But yeah, I'm that guy. But yeah, I would say definitely, you know, grab the camera. You know, I always try to do that. You know, I always say, hey, Neville, take a look at these.
Yeah.
You know, what do you think?
Yeah, always show the hunter and make sure they're happy with them.
I think another thing too, like you mentioned, like if you're by yourself, like you can do a lot of stuff still when you're by yourself. If you're the only, you don't have a friend with you, so you have to take your own photos, whether it's on cell phone or on camera. Like, there's ways to mount your phone up on something. Maybe you have a tripod sitting there, you can mount it up. Maybe you have a tripod mount where it clips to your camera. But then what I always like to do when I'm solo is, like, literally look through the viewfinder, look at the animal. Obviously, the rack could be on the ground at that point, but make sure it's framed enough and make sure you're high enough so that when you pick that animal up, again, you're not cutting off the top. And if you take a few of the self-timed photos, just let them burn through, or set it so you can, you know, do a burst mode.
That's
Set
what I
down,
do.
set down the animal, come back around, look at it, like, all right, I need to lift the tripod up, or I need to move the tripod to the left, or move my camera a little bit, and then go back. It is a pain to go back and forth, but again, 3 months later, when you're looking at those photos, you're going to be glad you did that process multiple times to get the shot you want.
That's what I do, is I try to set it on a tripod or my backpack. I set it on 3-shot mode, you know, and I'll take 3 shots and then reassess, look at the picture, be like, oh, I need to tilt that animal's head a little bit to the left, you know, and then redo it. It's a pain in the ass to do field photos on your own, but like you said, worth it. And
And when I was talking earlier about using autofocus, when I'm by myself, totally solo, I will switch my camera over to manual. And then I will just zoom in on part of the deer and do like a digital zoom, so I can really fine tune that focus to get it slightly right. Like, no, it's going to be top of that deer's head. So when I lift that deer up, that'll be in focus, or I'll go a little bit behind that so I know I'll be in focus too. I can kind of play with the focus a little bit before I actually loop around and get in front of me. And I also always carry a little remote trigger activator. And they weigh literally like an ounce, and they run off those little like watch batteries.
I bet they make don't they make these for an iPhone? I'm certain they do.
I guarantee they do.
Guarantee they do. Like a Bluetooth clicker for your phone. I don't own one, but
and even if you don't have one of those little clickers, like if you have one of these Sonys or whatever, you can download the Sony app and have a remote timer from your camera or phone that'll also remote time the camera, so you can do a bunch of self stuff.
So let me ask you, what do you guys get from? You guys both carry cameras.
Yep.
You carry Sonys, right?
Yep.
What model is this?
Yeah, so that's why I have this camera sitting in front the whole time. This is the camera that I run for literally everything, whether it's landscape, product photography, we out in the field, just taking general hunting stuff, and harvest photos. This is just a Sony A7R4, and it's a 35 millimeter 1.12 lens. Really low f-stops, all I've been doing really creative stuff, and it's 35, so it's a fixed length. I can't zoom in, can't zoom out, it's 35. And I feel like a 35 mil is probably one of the most natural lenses for taking harvest photos.
Yeah.
It's not a wide angle.
That's what I was just going to talk about. I think for harvest photos too, you got to make sure you have
the right lens for the
job. Right lens. Like everyone knows when you take a harvest photo with like a wide angle fisheye.
Yeah, it's you're skewing things a lot.
Yeah,
and sometimes
I think
for creative you can do that, but it's gonna look different and gonna look a little bogus.
I think a good rule of thumb is, this is just my opinion, and I think it's with any photography. Like my style is, you're trying to take the most realistic picture, right? You want it to look how it was at that time.
Yep.
So I think using a lens that fits that is gonna obviously help you do that. And some people like taking their harvest photos with wide lens, and a lot of times it looks like it's big as hell. Like a little too big. It's like, what in the hell? This antler looks like it's 8 feet long.
Yep. And that's just knowing your gear. And now it's kind of crazy too, you have iPhones with wide angle lenses on it. It's like maybe you could take one or two if it's creative, but not trying to like blow it up, but just for maybe a different style, and just stick to that 1x camera lens and just take normal photos. That's why I really love this 35. It takes
So if someone was going to buy a camera and a lens, that's what you would suggest.
Yeah, or if you have something that's more of a zoom, like a 2470 lens or something like that.
Yeah,
like
24 to 105 is a pretty common.
Yep.
Common like do it all lens,
and then just have it at 35. Just try to make it more natural, and then still like some of those photos, like Neil was saying too, if you're close to the animal, take some. Also take some maybe 20 yards behind. If you have a chance where it's a hunter out there, like you want to grab that scene.
Think of it as like you're telling a story of some sort, whether that's the scenery you're in, the weapon you're using, the animal you shot. Like like how I was talking about the different zoom levels. Mm-hmm. The different zoom levels allow you to tell a story in more depth. Like the further zoom level, you're able to see more and understand like the terrain they're in, the weather, the weapon, the elk. So like you get a better picture and understanding of the story when you do those. That's why it's important to do like close, medium, far shots, so then you can see everything and get like a full story of how it kind
that's
of
where
went
if some guy wants to use a wide angle lens and you want to showcase that scenery, maybe it was on the nastiest knife ridge, and you had some epic scenery behind there that you might only show your family, not blow it up on the internet, but like a wide angle could be really cool. That's why you're going to see everything. You're going to see the position that you killed that deer and be like, wow, that was rugged.
Yeah, I remember that fucking shitty hike into this hellhole to kill it or something.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What is it do you guys think you gain from going with a high-end camera over versus somebody that's just packing around their phone?
Nowadays, honestly, phones are amazing. Like there's some times when I take like a scenery photo with my big camera and I'll take one with my iPhone. I'm like, damn, the iPhone one was freaking good.
Yeah.
Like it is amazing, the quality nowadays. These are great and all, but like I use it for different purposes because obviously we have,
But you still pack that.
I still pack that all the time.
So why do you pack that?
Memories. Like I just want to be able to do whatever I want to do with that photo.
Is it better? Are you getting a better? What are you getting?
They're essentially more. They have more capabilities.
Yeah, I could zoom in that photo and crop it tighter, and it's gonna still be very high res, or I could keep it full.
Yeah.
Or I can edit the photo more because I shoot in RAW, so I can adjust all the colors and make things more shadows, or bring the darks a little bit back, or bring the colors up.
So the camera's going to have the ability to give you more capabilities of taking different types of pictures. You have autofocus, you have manual focus. Like you're able to do more with a higher end camera compared to like a phone. And then on the back end, once you edit the photo, it's the same. You have more capabilities of doing more with that photo.
And I think of like the bigger cameras too come in handy. Like when you shot your antelope, when I was like, hey, hurry up, get behind that animal really quickly because we had an awesome sunset. I was able to adjust my camera settings to also have you in focus, but also be able to get that epic background, like the sunset going on. Or I could, crank up the ISO and make things really bright if it's really dark out and I don't need maybe a flash or something like that. Yeah, it's going to get a little more grainy, but I could just determine what mood I'm trying to make the photo look like in the camera settings. I'd rather do everything in camera and rather than edit later, because editing later just kind of mess up your photo, makes things just look kind of fake.
So that was going to be my question, is how much do you do with your camera in the field?
A lot.
You do a lot.
I do a lot.
Yeah. So you're doing all the settings to make it look as good as possible, so when you have to edit it, you don't have to edit it as much.
So you're not just pulling this camera out, putting it in autofocus, snapping photos, and then dealing with edits on the back end with Photoshop or something.
Yeah.
You're doing a lot of work with this camera in the field to get a photo that you feel like is a good photo when you take that back, and you might tweak a few things.
The biggest thing you're usually combating is light.
Yeah, I was just going to ask.
It's light.
How do you handle that?
It's light of some sort. It's either too bright or it's too dark. I mean, you have different controls on the camera that compensate for being too light or too dark. It's ISO, like you can go up and down, plus f-stop helps with that as well, like going and adjusting that. And like most cameras, we have them set up so you have a meter, and it's going to show you if your image is going to be like over too bright or if it's going to be too dark, like you're trying to keep your meter in a good spot. And then other options you can do, you can put filters on the lens itself, which are really good for like super sunny days. So you can so a lot of times when you take like a picture and it's super sunny, something's going to be way too bright. Like the sky is going to be way too bright, but you yourself, the person in the picture, is going to look like it's the correct lighting. Like a filter does on your lens, it's going to allow you to have like nice blue skies, and the person is going to be like properly lit.
Yeah. I always try to keep, like on a harvest photo, like I said, my f-stop at a medium level around like 6 or something. And then I try to keep my ISO as low as I can go, because that's going to make the better quality image without getting really grainy. Like that's going to also adjust the light, make it brighter or darker. And the same thing too with your shutter speed. Yeah. So it's a lot of this, like there's 3 different settings you got to move around all the time, and the way you adjust
shutter speed, f-stop, and ISO.
Those are the 3 things you're worried about, and they all play off each other.
Yep, they're kind of like cousins in a way. They're all related to each other.
Yeah, they all do the same. They all have the capabilities of making images brighter or darker. It's just like finding the happy medium for each of them. So like if you have your f-stop or if you have your shutter too low, so what happens is, if like for handhelding, you're going to get blur.
Yep. But that shutter being really low, if you had it on a tripod, it's going to add more light, bring more light in, and so you don't have to then crank your f-stop, your ISO way up to make it brighter. So it's like there's ways you can do it, but hand holding it, like Neville said, if you have the f-stop too low and you take a picture and you're going to be moving a little bit, that image is just going to look blurry.
Yeah. So like we're saying, obviously a higher end camera is going to have more capabilities on the front end while taking the picture, and more capabilities on the back end when it comes to editing. But with that, it also comes with
weight
and more learning, right? You have to understand the capabilities, or else it doesn't do you any good if you don't know all your capabilities of your camera and your editing software.
Yeah,
this camera
does me no good.
Yeah.
To carry around in my backpack, because I'm going to get the same image that I could probably get from my iPhone, because I don't have the breadth of understanding to deal with f-stop and
So it's kind of like, if you're thinking about it, it's understanding. Well, if I'm going to take a nice camera out, like I'm gonna have to be committed in learning how the settings work and taking the best picture possible, and then being able to edit it to the best possible.
Yeah, because nothing
worse.
And if
you don't, whatever, if that's too much, you're like,
I think a lot of people think they can just buy this camera,
and it takes,
myself included. I can buy a nice camera. I can go out and I can get Brady J. Miller level photos. But it's not the case, right? You got to put some time and effort to understand it.
Yeah, with more capabilities takes more learning and understanding of how to like use those capabilities to its best.
But I think too, though, if you're someone who just wants to take better pictures, getting a camera like this and forcing yourself to go out, take pictures of your dog, take pictures of trees, take pictures of whatever, like eventually you're gonna start to figure it out, and then you're gonna start to become like, I don't know. I think we have like more of a creative mindset maybe, and that's why, like I said, we always talk about angles and positions of the animal and different ways to like highlight something. Like we don't just take a straight on harvest photo, take 15 of them and call it good. We're, like Noel said, we're going all the way around that animal even though it might seem weird, like, why are you taking that photo? Or like those ones where I said, hey, keep your headlamp on and look at that antelope, and I was behind you, and it was like I could adjust that in camera a little bit, then I also adjusted that in Lightroom later, do some editing stuff to kind of like make that what I thought was kind of a cool photo, because how my mind was just working at that time to like think of the scene, think I kind of want the outcome of it, and just.
And a lot of the times, like I'll be thinking, I'm like, oh, this seems stupid. Like at the time, I won't think it's that great of a picture, or I'm just trying to get as many different looks as possible. And then once I like get on my computer, I'm like, oh, like that was like a really cool angle that like at the time I thought was kind of stupid, but I knew just it gives you the ability to have more options.
Yeah. Let me ask you, and I've hinted around this with Brady a bunch. When you're out there and you're hunting through a process of a hunt, same with you, Neville. I've seen you take, we'll stop and have lunch or whatever, and you'll pull out your camera and you're wandering around where we're sitting when you're taking pictures of like, backpack or, a bow or flower or whatever it is, right? So like, you probably can't teach this, right? Like what's your guys' mindset when you're out on a hunt? Like, do you have a time when you're like, oh, I should take a picture of that? And what is it that triggers you to like pull out your camera? This is something I want to document. Like, how do you get into that, quote unquote creative mode mindset?
Yeah, I mean, to me, my style is I let it come to me. Like I'll see it first before I take it. Like it's something that moves me where I'm like, oh, that would be a cool picture. Like I'm not a spray and pray kind of photographer. Like I see something that I like and then I take a picture. Like if I don't see something that I like or interests me or piques me to think of this is a cool picture, then I won't take it. Mm-hmm. It's usually something that I see, like I'm like, oh, that's kind of that would make a cool picture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, again, it's like.
You're thinking about it a lot.
Yeah, even him describing it though, it's something that's very hard to explain.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I knew it was an abstract concept when I asked the question. I just wanted to see what you had to say.
I think it comes down to too, just like figuring out what you're trying to get out of that specific scene. Like if it's you just setting up camp, like it might seem boring. Like you're setting up camp, we do that every single night, but it's like that's part of that story that we're building of. We're going on an adventure. We're going to document that because later on we're going to look back on it. Like, remember that time we put up that camp and then later on it dumped 2 feet of snow on us? Like, just knowing that, like Neville said, you're just not forcing it. You're not spraying and praying, but you just have an idea of this is a cool scene or you're about ready to cross a stream and I'm going to go out in front of you first because I want you to cross the stream, even though, yeah, it kind of feels like a stage, but we are going across that stream anyway. So might as well snap some photos of you taking your boots off, walking through the water, or even just like, me a lot of times, like I like taking photos at night, like star trails and Milky Way stuff, or even just lit up the Seek Outside teepee at night and just capturing that at night, even though it sucks to stay up late at night and try to take a photo. But it's like, again, I look back at those, I'm like, that was worth me going outside in the cold and snapping some photos because it's building that storyline where we can look back at it and remember exactly where we were at that moment and what we were doing. And that even ties with the harvest photo, like both those together, like maybe one of the harvest photos is still powerful, but if you only had harvest photos on a hunt, I think you're missing out because you're not having that full-on what we guys did during the hunt. Like even sitting there glassing and eating. Like, yeah, everyone eats during the day, but
I think I always tell people, freelance people that I work with, or people that are just starting out. So think of if you were to tell a hunting story, right? There's always parts of a hunting story that you remember, something that's like that happened. So it's those parts that you want to capture. Those are the interesting parts, right? So that makes an interesting picture. So if you're on a hunt and the first day you're telling a story to somebody like, oh yeah, we got stuck in 3 feet of mud. Well, that's probably a good picture. Like that's an interesting part of the story. So you don't need to take like a ton of people. Everyone's different though, but I always think of it as if I were to tell a story after this hunt, you're usually telling a 3-minute story is like you hit the most important things, right? You're telling the stuff that's interesting. It's those interesting pieces that you probably want to have a picture of because that's what makes an interesting photo because it's telling the story. Yeah,
I think this is like what your words would be in 2 seconds. It's like you're almost wanting to, if you have no text, no description, if you just laid out those photos would tell that story.
Right.
From start to finish. If someone just looked at those, they'd be able to see exactly what you did throughout the whole hunt.
So I think it's always good if you, like think of any story that you tell, like you have 5 or 6 really important pieces that are like super interesting. Like it's the same with taking video and photo. Like those are the things you want to capture.
Yep. And I think then too, if you're going to be a person that's going to document a hunt, whether it's for your family, friends, or some other YouTube channel, is having your camera accessible.
Oh, I was going to bring that up.
Like, if you have one of these cameras and literally it's in your top of your backpack, you're going to miss out on so much stuff. Even if it's snowing or raining, like put a little sleeve over camera, keep that out. That's why like most of us always have either Peak Designs, little clips, or we have a cotton carrier system. That's why in the bottom of my camera, for people on the video, like I have all these big mounts on here. One for my Arca Swiss, one for my Peak Design. This literally just goes right in my backpack strap, and it's always right in there next to me.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's a little bit of weight, so like my left shoulder or collarbone area will start hurting after a hunt, but it's like, it's there. I can just pop it out really quickly, snap a photo, put it back again, and just take one. I'm not taking a million photos. Even if it's like your cell phone. Cell phone's usually always in your pocket because you're using it for navigation and maps. Like, pull that thing out, snap a little photo of something, and
it's like anything. If it's out of sight, it's out of mind, right?
Yeah.
So if it's in my backpack, I'm not thinking about it. I'm not thinking about taking photos. I'm not thinking about making stories. I'm just, I'm not.
And it's different too for like the application. So, you know, someone that's hired for a hunt to like literally take photos, like it's going to be different for someone like me. I just take them because I enjoy them. So I'm not going to take as much. Whereas someone who's paid and has like objectives, like they need to get this product, they need to get this product, make sure you highlight this product. Like they're going to be taking more photos and actually like probably a little bit less of a story, but they're still telling a story, but they're focused on, they know I need to get pictures of this boot. I need to get pictures of this pant. Mm-hmm. Whereas like me, we use my photos as well, but it's more of like enjoyment and like what I find interesting that tells the story. So like how many times did you, like we sit down and eat lunch every day. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I take pictures and sometimes I didn't. The ones that I took pictures, like that one where we had all of our shit, like we're drying all of our shit out, right? Like that's an interesting photo compared to like the day before where we were just sitting there sleeping. Mm-hmm. Like that tells the story of like, oh, these guys had some bad weather. They're drying out all their stuff, like that kind of stuff.
Gotcha.
Yeah. One thing we'll jump back on the harvest photo side too. Do you carry a flash ever, Neville, for your camera?
No.
I don't think I've ever seen you carry a flash.
It can get tricky, but it can be done.
So yeah, we should probably walk through like
night photos.
Trying to take night photos.
Yeah, for sure. How do you take a good night photo?
It's hard.
Is it?
Like I try to carry a flash all the time, but those flashes for these cameras are heavy. And again, it's just a piece of gear that literally sits in your backpack until you have a harvest photo.
Right.
Like, yeah, I could take some other flash photos, but like it's literally only pulled out when I have a night shot. But like I will take a flash and put it on here, and then flash is going to brighten everything up. But then also there's settings on flashes as well that you have to be aware of, because if you have a flash on there and you have a bunch of settings on your camera, it's going to blow it up and be too bright. So you have to also then manipulate your settings on your camera to use a flash. Or the other way to do it, which we did like on your Antelope, but we just had a bunch of headlamps. Mm-hmm. So everyone has headlamps. Most people probably have backup headlamps. That's where you're going to want to take out your headlamps, have that camera guy either holding them or maybe attach them to a tree or your tripod, or do something where you can either highlight that person's face with the headlamp and highlight the animal and try to brighten that scene a little bit. Yeah. So if you have an iPhone, you can still take photos with it, or use your flash on your iPhone. Even during the daylight too, if I have that flash with me, it's in my backpack, I will experiment, put my flash on my camera, take in, because then it might highlight or like make that animal look a little bit differently, because it might make the background a little bit darker, and it just again sets a different mood for the photo. Mm-hmm. Some people don't like flashes because it's not natural, but again, I think it can add just that. If you're a photographer looking to, set yourself differently, it's going to just add a different feel to your photos.
Yeah, headlamps can definitely do the job, and then it's knowing your settings in your camera, where you're basically taking them to like the max level that like works for that situation. So like you're gonna have to have a lot lower shutter than you normally take, but you don't want it too low where you like see blur. So because what that does is that's gonna make the image more bright. And then with your f-stop, you're gonna want that lower as well, because that's gonna make the image more bright. But you don't want it too low where stuff's out of focus. And then with your ISO, the higher the ISO, the brighter the image, but also with the higher ISO, the grainier the image.
Gotcha.
So like you're taking each of those three settings to like the max capability that it can do that still works.
So something you mentioned was, you said there's sensors in the camera to kind of show you.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's not like you're setting this based on feel and look, and then just taking a picture and being like, I hope that works out. There's sensors within the cameras that you can, once you know what you're kind of doing, what you're trying to do.
So the monitor does change. So like you can see it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like you'll see the changes, and then there's also the metering, which is the sensor. So like once you mess with all these settings, the meter is going to tell you to some extent like if your picture's too bright or if it's too dark.
Gotcha.
Yeah, there's like a middle line, and then everything below it's negative is going to be too dark. Everything on the positive side is going to be too bright. You kind of like just go back and forth. And sometimes I like to, maybe lean towards
push the boundary a little bit.
Push the boundary a little bit more darker, and then later on I'll realize, well, I'll just pull the shadows out, or I'll make it a little bit brighter. But if you crank those a little too weird, it gets, too crazy.
That's like where other like advantages of having a nice camera for like situations where it's not the best lighting. One, your settings capabilities, you can usually find something to suit that, taking that picture pretty well, and then on the editing side, like you're able to do more.
Gotcha.
With that image that is like a little bit dark or a little bit too bright. Whereas, phones and other things, you're not able to do as much with that picture. Once it's taken, that's what you got.
Right. Yeah.
And so, again, it comes down to it's a practice thing.
Practice.
And you're going to want to practice because you don't want to, like I said.
We ain't talking about practice.
We ain't talking about practice. It's like you don't want to be practicing that moment when you have to cut that animal pretty quickly. Like you want to be able to make that a quick process. So.
Yeah, no, do your homework prior, right? Let me ask you about shadows. You brought up shadows. I mean, that's one thing I see quite a bit. You see somebody take a picture, and it might as well be camouflage, right? Because it's just like an array of like sunlight and shadows, and the animal kind of blends into it. Like, what do you do?
There's a couple things that you can do. Sometimes if it's an easy shadow to eliminate, like if there's a sun coming down and it's like going right on you, and there's a tree branch right next to it, you can take a jacket. Put that jacket over where that sun's coming in and try to block that, so that way that light's not hitting the antler, which then makes the shadow on your face. Or again, you might just have to try to drag that animal a little bit forward to get out of that direct sunlight, so you don't want half your animal in the sun, half in the shadow, because it's going to be a harsh photo to try to take a photo of, because you're going to have to expose for two different lights, like brightness and then the darkness.
So do you pick one or the other, like all shadow or all sunlight?
I'd rather be all in, because then I can adjust things on my camera to take a better picture.
Gotcha.
But also sometimes too, shadows can be creative as well. Like if I'm taking a photo and there's a big shadow coming off your beam and it's going on the hide of the animal, that shadow could be pretty cool because it might be the antler tine, like the outline of it, and that might be something to just take a picture of the shadow. Yeah. Like one thing to do that, but that just could add to that extra memory, because maybe it had like some weird kicker out there and you're getting both that kicker of the antler
and again, I mean, I would reiterate at this point, like you can't teach creativity. I don't feel like I'm creative to a point, but I'm not. But I do think you can put it forefront in mind and start looking at things more often through, take a rudimentary thing that happens every single day, like lunch. What is interesting about this process? This product, this bow, this setting, this landscape. What are the interesting things? I just think you could practice that. I think, but
I think everyone's a lot more creative than they think. It's a lot of the times you just have to do it.
You don't practice it.
Yeah, the more you do it, the more you realize what works, what doesn't work, and like understanding the whole process. It's just doing it.
Yeah, like even taking your camera and just taking a picture of the burrs, like the bases. Maybe he had a bunch of junk in there. He was just rubbing his antlers on something. Like, that's just a cool photo to take. It's like it's not showing your animal, but it's like that's just part of that memory that you're not going to get.
Yeah, gotta work at it. I just get out there and I'm just like survive and kill.
That's right.
That's it. That's it. Well, that's good. That's good stuff. This is one that I've been wanting to have for a while.
Yeah. Should we do a quick rundown of the harvest photo process?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just a quick rundown.
We got first cleaning, positioning the animal, making sure it looks well presented, no blood, tongue in the mouth.
Oh, one other one I forgot.
What do you got?
Man, if you shoot an animal with a bow, with an arrow, man, pull that arrow.
Yeah,
don't leave it jammed in the. Yeah. That's a good one.
Like if that arrow is stuck in there, you didn't get a full pass through, man, pull that thing out.
Yeah, that's not adding to anything.
No, I hate that.
Yeah. So beginning process, cleaning up the animal, making it look well presented, no tongue out of the mouth, having a good spot. You're cognizant of like the shot. The shot looks, you have that cleaned up.
Clear out the vegetation. Yeah. Clear out the background if you can a little bit.
If you need to, drag that animal a little bit.
Yeah, if you can.
and then taking the picture.
Just working on angles and
All the different angles. You got high, you got low, you got to the side, you got in the front, you got in the back, and then your different zoom levels with those different angles. Close-up shots, medium shots, far shots.
And then talking to your hunter a lot, telling him, hey, that animal's tilted, or your head tilted, or hey, your clothes are all weird, like fix that a
Your
little bit.
zippers down.
weird clothes.
Put your tongue back in your mouth. Tongue in the mouth.
Even sometimes too, I look at somebody's photos and you realize like you're leaning back, like you're like some model pose or whatever. Like
Mine's always the cocked head.
Yeah.
Like ever since I was in elementary school, I always did my homework just like this, cocked head to the left. Same thing. I do that I do that all the time. My head's always kind of cocked to the left. So.
And even what you're doing with your hands too, like if you're holding with one thing and your left hand's over here, like maybe tell that guy to move his hand, hide it. Or even like grab your hand with the antlers once. Don't feel like to grip that sucker and with both hands, or maybe one hand underneath. Like experiment with different things when you're doing those poses.
Yeah, that's kind of a personal gripe of mine. I don't like when somebody grabs the whole antler and like you can't really see the main beam of a deer or something like that. I try to keep my hands away from it if I can.
Good clear view of the antlers.
Yeah.
Making sure everything's in focus. Your best bet is to have the hunter and the antlers in focus.
And don't worry about just trying to make the animal look bigger than what it is. Be proud of what you shot. Take some photos. If you want to, take some other creative ones too. But
or make it look big. I mean,
whatever you freaking want, man. It's your animal. It's your time, your moment.
Yeah. Just be prepared for people to,
Yeah.
Bring a bunch of batteries.
Give us some feedback.
Snap away. How many batteries you take on a hunt?
1.
What?
How many do you take?
Like 4.
If I'm taking just photos, I could probably 2.
Oof. I guess it's harder for me because I do take a lot of more night photos, and those are kind of burning up batteries, like doing some long exposure.
Photos don't usually burn your camera up too bad.
Okay.
I don't take as many photos as you.
How many memory cards though?
1.
1.
I don't take as many photos as you. I take probably 200 to 300 photos.
Okay. One random tip I'm going to give in terms of memory cards. So obviously I'm different than you, but like when I pack my memory cards, if I know that night or that day I took a bunch of harvest photos of someone, I will remove that card and baby that card the rest of the hunt. Like I don't want something to get corrupted in that card or something weird going on.
We just talked about this.
Like I will literally take that card out, put it in somewhere. Like usually I have a little Pelican case that keeps things all watertight and protected, and like put that to the side, put a fresh card in the next day if someone else is still hunting or whatever. Just like I don't want to lose those. I don't do a thing where I back up. I could have double cards in here and back it up, but that's just a lot of extra stuff. So knock on wood, I've never lost any images, but I try to take them out and put somewhere safe.
Because you never know, especially if you've still got a couple more days. It gets rainy.
Or you think like, this card has some old photos on it, and you forgot that you're at the front half of your hunt, and you're like, I'm going to format that card really quickly, and then you had some harvest photos on the back end of that card, and you just removed a bunch of them.
Woof.
Gotcha.
Yikes. Hopefully that never happens.
Yeah, and then lastly, I would just say, keep your camera at hand, keep it close, and if it's something that's important to you, you want to document your hunt, keep it forefront of mind. Think about situations, think about the entire process. Look for, those things that are interesting. Whether that's a leaf or an animal or whatever it might be. Some part of the process, a knife, a product. I snapped a photo. It's not a great photo by any means, but like I had my camera guy in Utah on this elk hunt, and he was just his feet were just chewed up from the boots that he had. And so I've got some photos of just like that guy with, his feet look like a mummy, like he's dressed up for Halloween.
See, that's exactly what I was saying. So if you were to tell the story of that hunt to somebody, that would be definitely one point that you'd bring up in the story, like, oh yeah, my cameraman's feet were just torn to shreds. And then that's something that you should take a picture of.
Yeah. Yep.
I guess maybe one more thing I'm going to touch on. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, no, do it. We're here.
When you take harvest photos, this is maybe just a pet peeve, and Neville knows probably what we talk about. When I take harvest photos, I watch out for what that background is.
You don't want to give away spots.
I don't want to give away spots.
Oh, yeah.
So
I don't think about that too much, but
yeah,
I'm always in the dark timber anyway.
I'm
never in the open spaces.
Yeah.
I just think about that a little bit too. Like, hey, if I'm going to take this harvest photo and I'm going to share it, I might not be from that state, and it could be someone's backyard, and they might hunt there all the time. So I'm just kind of watching out for that, just to like.
What do you do about that? Close? Just take them close.
Take them closer, or position the animal, or hope it's night, and you can do some flashing.
Photoshop it later.
I have.
Just add a landscape.
I've done some of that before.
Add a third antler.
Not some of that.
A unicorn.
Add an eye guard.
Yeah.
But
so
yeah,
I just watch out for some of that stuff too. I just want to like be careful, even though
that's a good tip.
You know, some people might not care, but there's some people that might just look at that and try to find your spot. And
depends on the hunt too, right? I mean, if that's a tag that you can buy over the counter every single year, it's like you're saying. I mean, there are people that hunt those every single, year in, year out. It might be a tradition, and they might be really bummed out if you start blasting, a 200-inch buck on a ridge that they've hunted since they were a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's harvest photos and Grip-N-Grins.
Love me some Grip-N-Grins.
Just well-presented animal, different angles, different zooms.
Yep. Do your animal justice. Take some photos, memories. Print photos, too. I got to get back to printing photos.
Print photos.
Yeah.
My mom always loved back in the day when I would mail her a bunch of photos.
My dad always will take a harvest photo, even still, like if it's a photo that Neville's taken or you've taken, he always likes to print them out, and he'll often, like if I see him at a show or something like that, he'll walk up with a print, so he still does that a lot. And it's kind of fun. I mean, for me, like, I don't do a ton with them. Some of them are just kind of posted up around my office at home, but my kids think that's cool. Yeah. They pick them up and look at them. And I've got some ones that are pretty funny. Like I've got one of a bull I killed in Utah in like 2002. And, I look at that photo and like it instantly takes me back to being just like a dumb 21-year-old kid, like Wrangler camo. I mean,
Yep.
I like to think I've come a long ways.
Take Grip-N-Grins, take more photos.
Be proud.
Be proud. Have more memories to look on.
Yeah.
Because if you don't ever get them back. Like, you're not getting those photos back. You're not going to...
You might never have that tag again. You might never hunt that species. It could be a once-in-a-lifetime type hunt, mountain goat, sheep, that sort of thing. Like, freaking enjoy it.
Yeah, and it's fun. I mean, my kids, it's been kind of fun to share with my kids, to let them look at, photos of elk and deer and caribou and moose and stuff that I've killed, I don't know what their dreams are going to be. I don't know if they're going to hunt, and I don't really care. I mean, it'd be cool if they wanted to, but it's kind of fun to, like, be able to look back on, your dad. I still have a picture of my dad. I remember very clearly, like, he's sitting on the tailgate. He's got like the old military camo, and he's got his old bow sitting there, and he's got like a little forked horn, mule deer buck that he shot with his bow. And it's a super cool photo. I remember that one. I remember another one of an antelope that he killed that's in the front yard of the house, that he brought it home and then took some field photos in the yard of the house. But like, even that, man, I look back on that.
Yeah,
it's a pretty cool, picture to look back on, and, just see my dad as a younger man. So I would say, yeah, take photos. I mean, if not for you, which I think, everybody kind of likes to look back on those and remember, but like, friends, family as well.
Yep. All right, guys.
What's the promo?
Hit us with the promo, Brady, before we leave.
All right. So as always, we wanted to give you guys a little treat. Halloween's coming up.
I was going to say, nice.
A trick or treat.
Yep. Hunting season's getting good too, boys. So you guys are almost done. I'm just starting. So yeah, we want you guys to, we were just talking about earlier, like application season's coming back around. It might be crazy thinking that, but like some people may haven't started yet. Some people are already over, but application season's coming up. So to help you guys out, use promo code PODCAST when you're signing up for either Insider. For Insider, you'll get 50 points back to the GOHUNT Gear Shop. And what's really cool about that is everyone can use some gear. And this is basically the only membership you have that gives you money back.
Love gear.
Like,
oh, yeah.
Love it. So, and it's like we talked about earlier again too. Like it's a complete package when you sign up for Insider membership. You literally get all the research tools, so access to application strategy articles. Those are going to be ramping up here coming up. Diving into some more Insider only like tips and tactics for how to put tags in your pocket, how to navigate draw system, every state by state. Filtering 2.0, very powerful tool. Start diving into that for next year, and you get access to maps. Mm-hmm. So you get gear, you get maps, you get Insider. So everyone wants to put more tags in, everyone wants more gear. Everyone needs a mapping thing. So use promo code PODCAST. It'll get you 50 points to the gear shop. And then for our maps only membership, you sign up for Explorer, promo code PODCAST. That'll give you 20 points back to the GOHUNT Gear Shop. And in addition to the Explorer membership, you also get, actually, like I said, all those gear rewards. So your person who's shopping, you're going to buy an optic. Why not buy it from GOHUNT, get those points back, and buy something else basically for free by using those points? And you get access to Point Tracker.
Yeah.
So you can start tracking your points in different states, and then
I think people get so confused by point systems. Like if you have a Costco membership or whatever it is, they're like, oh, we have this membership reward program. And you're like, what's, 1 point? I might have 6,000 points. And I'm like, what the hell is that? I don't know. But like ours is basic. It's $1.1, $1.
It's the easiest thing ever.
It's super easy. So yeah, I mean, you buy a product, you get points back on your purchases. If you sign up with the promo code podcast, you get points, 50 points, $50.
Yep. And we have a new thing in the website too. If you go to our shop, up in the upper right, there'll be a sale tab, and there'll be, I think it says 5x points.
Yeah.
And so that's
5x points.
Yeah. So there's a bunch of items in the shop right now that you'll actually be able to get extra points on. So if it says 15 points and it says next to it X2, that's actually 30 points you get back, which is $30. So a lot of awesome items in there that we have a little bit more points offering for it. So a little just more kickback, and then like I said, you can use that points for whatever you want. You can bank them, you can save them, you can use it as a bank account and just save your points up, and all of a sudden buy a sleeping bag with all your points and get it for free.
Just like that. We're paying you guys.
For free?
We're giving you money. Take the money, use promo code podcast, end of story.
Yep.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
And
That was good.
Thank you.